Hi, Nick Biron from 360 Insights, and just got off a phone call with someone, and kind of really drew me to wanting to do a quick video, and it really kind of gets to the heart of the vendors. And I did a video not too long ago about storytelling, and I really believe that it's an important part to being successful from a vendor perspective. Uh, but also, I wanted to highlight something that came up in my last conversation where it's not just about storytelling, but really kind of how do you stand out amongst the competition? And the reality is, it's not just in the world of HR, which is what 360 Insights mainly covers, but it's also in other worlds as well. Went from a software perspective, for example. And when it comes down to it, if you were to take all of the different software offerings and the various segments out there and overlaid their capabilities together, what you'll find is that most of them overlap, if not almost 100%, pretty damn close. So what does that tell you? Well, the reality is that there isn't much difference between the vendors out there. Sure, the way things look and feel might be a little bit different. The color scheme might be different, but from a feature functionality perspective, the reality is when you boil it down, there's not much difference between the vendors at the surface. And the reason why I say at the surface is this is where I believe the storytelling comes into play, and also where how you present yourself as an organization also comes into play. Because the reality is if you're showing up to a briefing for a research firm or to a customer, and you're just going in there and doing a feature functionality dump, you're not differentiating yourself from the competitors that they may have just spoken to an hour before or had into the same conference room an hour before or a day before. The reality is that you need to couple on top of the storytelling how you're different, how you stand out amongst the competition. And it's not kind of just the same old in terms of, well, we're faster, better, more agile. No, it's really talk about some of the differentiating factors. I'll give you one example. There's an organization that 360 Insights works with called Harry. And what I really like about them is they have really understood and identified the type of organization they are. And it comes from their heritage. Most of the leadership team had actually worked at restaurants and quick service restaurants in the past. So what they did is they created a full service HIRS platform, but for quick service and restaurants. So the first thing that they've done to differentiate themselves is they didn't try to be everything to everyone. They really identified who they are meant for. And then what they did is they built their tools and platforms and solutions around who they're built for. So when they go into a sales call, they can literally talk about how they're different because they built it in an angle that was really meant for that particular industry. And they can talk to the stories of how their customers have utilized them for success. And we've written on some of them as well from a 360 Insights perspective. And they're doing very well from a go to market perspective and winning business. And it's because they've identified how they're different, they've identified their strengths. They also understand their weaknesses as well. They have told us that they've had multiple clients approach them that have wanted to buy their services, but they were outside of that real core focus of theirs. And they said, well, listen, you can buy us, you can buy the software, but we're probably not going to be the best fit. And again, that's a very difficult conversation to have because you want to sell as much as you can. But the reality is that if it's not your core focus, you shouldn't go after that. So sorry, rambling on a little bit in this video, but at the core of what I wanted to share today is really, again, storytelling is important, but also differentiating factors is important as well. Again, as a research firm, we sit on a lot of briefings. And what I tend to find is that when you overlap those vendor capabilities together, there isn't much of a differentiating factor amongst the vendors that are seen from the surface. And it's because they show up and they talk about feature functionality, they talk about their latest releases, and even from, for example, an AI standpoint, you end up with the same capabilities. So when you go out there and you start to market yourself and you start to talk to research firms, really latch on to your differences. Talk about those key differentiating factors. Talk about how you're doing things different from a research, excuse me, a software perspective.